We're excited. This is going to be a blast. It's been a little bit. I hope everybody had a great Christmas or holiday season celebrating whatever it is you like to celebrate. But we hope it was a good time with friends or family and lots of good food to eat. So, welcome back. Welcome back, us. Welcome back, you. Thanks again for being here. Check out the likes and subscribes and do all that stuff. We just like to see who's watching. Or don't and just watch that way too. We're okay either way. We're not trying to force you. Now, Brando, though, on the other hand, is out there in social media world all the time posting stuff about bands, about what we're doing. So go out there and see what's going on because there's always some new news, right? We live in the world of metal. And there's new stuff happening every single freaking day. And that's what's beautiful about it. It's also what's a little bit overwhelming, but that's what we're here to do. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about some stuff, and hopefully you get to walk away with something new today. We are super excited because we have tonight with us Wyatt from Sidian. Wyatt, what's up, buddy?
What's up, man?
So, man, why don't you just, this is actually kind of funny. I was going to say what you do with the band, but you're the first time we've had probably this answer on the show. So go for it, bud.
Yeah, so Sidian kind of started uh out of a fluke. Um I was just being a fucking degenerate at it is okay if I cuss, right?
All you want.
Have at it,
Okay.
man. Say whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah. I was being a fucking degenerate when I was like from the ages of 18 to 21. And as soon as I was 18, like my parents, they were just like, "Hey, get the fuck out of here. You're on your own." And but in spite of all that, I from being in the scene in Modesto, California, which is, I don't know, oddly enough, a very like you ask people about it, no one's ever heard of it, and you're like, "Hey, Lacey Peterson, you remember that?" Like back if you're old enough, everyone's like, "Oh yeah," and I'm like, "Yeah," and then there's a bunch of meth and heroin there too. So, um, but no, I like growing up in the scene there. I got to see a lot of bands go from the I guess like the local spectrum to just like blowing up because it was in the whole MySpace era, and you didn't even really have to be that unique or talented. Now, granted, we got a lot of unique and talented bands out of that era, um, but like watching them go from just like these local shows to blowing the fuck up. And I regret like not being a little bit more musically mature at that point, because then I just would have been like adding people left and right, having fucking 10,000 friends like against their will exposed to our music. But no, I met my drummer Chris in high school. I was just like, I was really into lesser lesser than death metal stuff, just kind of like Slipknot, Lamb of God. Um, and just playing around on the guitar, and then smoking a ton of weed and meet through those people. So a couple of my buddies were like, "Dude, you should meet this guy Chris. He's insane. He could play Slipknot like nothing else." And I was just like, "Oh, what?" Like, that's cool. And then we got together. I think we smoked a couple blunts, and then all of a sudden we're jamming with my Line 6 half stack, and he showed me, I think, the first two death metal bands that I ever heard in my life that were in that world where I was I was receptive to it. Like, because before, it's like before you hit that threshold of heaviness, you're kind of like, oh, that's just noise. But it's like you're a 14, 15-year-old kid, never exposed to that stuff. But no, he showed me the Faceless, All Dark Graves.
Everything's so
Um,
new.
yeah, and then Necrophagus, the Stillborn one,
Yeah.
and I like those two songs will always be part of my core memory, and of just like, whoa, like, okay, like I see where this is going. So we jammed for a few years, and then like I said, kicked out when I was 18, and I was just living about 45 minutes south of there in Merced, just doing my own thing, um, doing a ton of drugs, and far removed from my friends and my family, and kind of just, I don't know, not really. I mean, like doing music, but basically sitting on my own, just doing stuff on Guitar Pro and whatnot. Um, I played for this band very briefly called the Low Bros. And thinking back to that era, they were actually very, very unique in their approach to writing music. They like no time signatures, no like thinking in this box of like, you know, this part and that part and kind of just going with feel. And that was a completely new experience to me. And honestly, without that, I probably wouldn't have approached Sidian how I did. And then while I was out there doing my own thing, Chris was part of his own project. I don't even remember what it was called, but then in 2010, I was moving back to Modesto with my then girlfriend, and um, I guess him and his guitarist had gotten into a fight or something, and they were like, you know, they went Splitsville. And so I swooped into the picture and I was like, hey man, uh, like, you know, listening to this stuff that they were making, it was very inside that box still that I was just talking about. And I was like, you know, hey, let's just fucking get together. Like, I guarantee you we can write some stuff that is um totally unique, like that no one's ever heard of. And like we can take this places, you know. Do you trust me? He's like, yeah man, you know, I don't have anything else to do. I need to play the drums. And we got together, we made some stuff. Danny, our bassist, came into the picture very, very quickly just because he was one of those dudes that hung out with us and smoked, and we showed him what we were working on. He brought in Antonio like less than a week later, and we had our first track ready, I think, after like a couple weeks, and then decided, you know, we were going to get the funds to get into the studio. That whole process kind of just went that way for the next couple years. And a few months after playing live shows, I think just, you know, members disbanding and then getting people to play live, and then the stress of just like, you know, the financial side of it, of investing in the live equipment and all that stuff. And then Antonio was doing Underling, which is a fantastic death metal project. Shout out to Underling if you haven't checked it out. They're not active anymore, but they also had Alex Bent on the drums, who did our single Eternal Bloom of Lamenting Dawn with us. He went on to drum for Trivium for like the last 10 years. And he recently retired. But yeah, at the end of that whole run of shows, it was Friday the 13th, actually, our last show. I got a chainsaw that looks like a dick tattooed on my hand for the send off, because they were doing the whole Friday the 13th tattoos. But no, after that, it was pretty much just me. I was in school for glass blowing for a few months, and then I got ejected from California out here to Texas with my kids, or I should say just kid at the time. And from there on out, it was something that I had started and I felt like never came to its full potential. And you know, I'm always writing, so it's always part of my creative outlet. And I mean, aside from the Sidian material that I actually released, I mean, I have a few dozen songs just like sitting there as just ideas, or like as fully fleshed out songs and everything that just didn't really quite fit in with the Sidian sound. But I've just been doing that since, see, so it's 2013. So the last last 12 years, just kind of coming up with my own ideas and trying to make it fit into that Sidian sound without coming back into that box. So that's where we're at today.
Awesome. That's so awesome. I really enjoyed getting to listen to what you have been working on in this
Thank
amount
you.
of time, because 2025, right? You guys put out, or you put out Where Our Silence Comes to Die. And
Just a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Right after Christmas.
Yeah, it was just like right at the end, right?
Yeah, right at the end. Well, I mean, it's breaking news. No, like tentatively, it's the end of things. I don't really have much to say in that arena, but at the same time, it's like every closed door, there's an open one right next to it. And in releasing this material, especially as fleshed out and as mature as I feel like that sound has become, it's like I've had people from my past kind of just approach me out of nowhere, and they're like, "Hey man, this stuff is fucking great. Are you gonna do anything else?" And I'm like, well, if the fucking creative bug crawls up my ass again, maybe. If I do anything else with Sidian, it would really have to. Sidian to me is a very unique sound. It's also my baby. It's my other child. And there are so many things that I do very, very close to it. But I still wouldn't call it Sidian. I might write stuff under a different moniker or something like that. I have over the last 5 or 6 years. I've been a part of a project called Zero Dawn, which was just like this group of musicians of like we were kind of just recording artists while this one dude was writing everything. I did a single track for a project called Kottgrav, which is I think Swedish for flesh tomb or something. That's just some like silly name we came up with. But like we went the whole 9 yards and paid for a really, really nice logo. We planned on doing something great with that, but it was like after me and the vocalist contributing kind of all the funds and then me doing all of the writing, it kind of just became more of a lot of the responsibility fell on me. And I don't know, I'd rather put all my attention into Sidian, or at least the stuff that speaks to me. That's why I have a bunch of like black metal shit, because it's like there's that realm of black metal which is like really symphonic and kind of just like Satan and pentagrams and all that shit, and then I'm like emotional despondence, like really beautiful but
like atmospheric kind of
black
black metal
down on you.
Yeah, I totally dig it. Actually, it's really funny. The whole like atmospheric black metal did not used to be my thing. Like I think I even remember like the great old ones, and I remember thinking, oh, it's just kind of atmospheric, and I don't really like it. Well now I love their stuff. And so I think my, especially doing the show, like things just change, like listening to all this different music. I started to even like open my mind up even more to different kinds of metal. But I can totally hear that influence. But the technicality that you're putting out with Sidian really just blows my mind. Like especially with, okay, so halfway through that album, I think, whenever you get to Albatross, I'm almost like just trying to interpret what I'm listening to. But then Albatross takes this kind of like real progressive turn for me, or at least it really like brings it to the forefront where I'm like, whoa, this is, a little bit different. And I really like that transition, because then, the next track, which is like, I think it's like three
Manic
just
Crash Blood.
yes, this one right there, man. That's whenever I'm just like, This is so freaking awesome. And then I think the very next track with like Pendular
Yeah,
is,
I was gonna say that one actually grabbed my attention every time. Like something about that song grabs me.
I was like, this is like some psychroptic sounding stuff, you know, and I don't mean to even say that to bring a comparison, as much as I just say that to illustrate it was next level for me. You know what I'm saying? And it was
Yeah.
like the more and more I listened to the album, the more and more I picked out of it. And I just got different enjoyment by it. And I think I totally missed the finally home little like soft little interlude that's done right before the very last track comes to Sunshine Ya, you know?
Yeah.
Sunshine Silence Ya.
Yeah, yeah. I really meant for the album to come full circle with that. That's why the last two tracks are actually, they're like complete recompositions of tracks that existed prior to the album. But I don't know, just the like Albatross was almost meant to be like this interlude and then turned into this whole fucking idea of like, okay, I can actually explore here a little bit, especially like with the softer parts and everything. um yeah, I just the technicality approach to it has always been, I have my core influences, but it's interesting that you mentioned Psychroptic because it's like that's one of those bands that I came across, probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 years into Sidian. Like I never really gave them a good listen until someone was just jamming them in the car, and I was like, hey, this actually sounds like kind of Sidian style stuff, or like something that I
It's
would
funny
write.
because like old school Scepters of the Ancients, like
Yeah.
that kind of psychroptic immediately grabbed my attention, you know, and like I said, it's definitely a compliment. But it's funny that you also had them in your head as far as like listening to them and recognizing it just kind of sounds like us, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. It's the slippery slidey riffs, right? It's like the super like like the yeah, it's I don't know
Hey,
Almost
where.
twangy.
know the
Yeah.
drumming though, because the drumming with the like ding 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 ding, where you're hearing like the cymbal work in there, like that also kind of brings it out too for me. But I mean everything, like the bass. I'm a bass player, so bass is actually what I hear first whenever I listen to the music. And the bass, is that what you recorded it on with
No,
that?
that's actually so I that was a treat to myself last year. It's a Fender
Yeah,
American Ultra Jazz 5.
very nice. I
Um
was like, is it a jazz bass? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's something that I got because any material moving forward. I'm not a bass player. I have the tiniest fucking hands you could imagine. Like most of the girls that I'm friends with or that I've been in relationships with, I'm like, check out how tiny my hands are, and they're like, they're not that tiny, and then we put them up to each other, and their fingers are like this far above, and I'm like, yeah. Um, but no, bass is something that I can definitely play. It's just something that I haven't put forth the effort to track with. I think I got that more so for stuff that I'm gonna write in the future. Um, as far as like the black metal stuff, because it lends itself to my more, I guess, intermediate level of bass playing. um this a lot of the stuff for Sidian, like I am not capable of playing at all. um
That's some insane stuff, you know? It's like, and it's keeping up with the crazy guitar, you know?
dude,
Like it's
So
so
awesome.
yeah.
so
What's
so
up,
yeah.
Brent?
So did you record? Is that you on the drums and the bass and like and everything on this record?
It's all me, but drums is superior drummer, and bass is easy bass.
Okay.
So just to, if there's any musician education going on here. So what I've learned a lot, especially like through URM Academy and like via bands Meshuggah and Fucking what else? There's a plethora of other bands out there that are using like programming as far as the like record goes, and everything samples afterwards, especially with drums and whatnot. But where a lot of musicians don't fine tune things, they kind of rely on the software to do its own thing and sound organic. I think I put as much time into editing just the dynamics and the natural feel of the programming as I do into the entire writing process. I mean, not there are so many bands out there that simply don't take the velocity of their snares, like when they're doing just like their big hits and their slower parts and their blast beats. There's no differentiation there, whereas like I'm going in there and not only am I dropping like the blast beat velocity down to like 80%, and then I'm highlighting all that and then randomizing a little bit so it's not perfect as far as like consecutive or the rhythm of the hits go, and then also the velocity. So there's variation in velocity, there's variation in like the perfect rhythms. Same thing with like with rolls, if it's on the snares or the toms or the ride or anything like that, there has to be some sort of level of humanization aside from the software's button that says humanize, because that only takes it to what the software thinks, human level of playing is. But that's what comparing it to,
Version of
yeah,
human.
yeah. Like if you're looking at Thomas Hake, like, he's his level of precision is inhuman. So it's one of those things where I study what like live drum takes actually sound like when you're listening to bands like Converge or just like just old school death metal bands where like the tom rolls, it's kind of like the sloppiness that lends itself to the rawness. So although like I wanted to get a really polished sound, because I fucking love it. Like I don't want it to sound like no offense, because they're one of my fucking favorite bands ever, but like I don't want my tones or anything to sound like Spawn of Possession, Noctambulant or whatever. Those guitar tones, like god awful. But like one of my favorite records of all time, fucking Eve of Contempt, like just the intro to that will always just get me into that fucking groove, just like, oh hell yeah. But no, yeah, everything's me, but it's I am constrained to the limitations of one, living in an apartment and not being able to like actually mic up an amp or have a full drum setup or take the time to do like a fucking crazy ass bass take that like I know I could probably punch in, 3 notes, 3 notes, 3 notes, and then like blend them all together. I could definitely do that, but I feel like it's like the software's there, as long as you know how to manipulate it and get it to where it sounds organic, and especially because I've worked with enough bass players and enough drummers to know like, hey, this is how things are played. Like there's not going to be impossible you need 3 hands to play this part stuff going on the drums, and there's not going to be stuff on the bass that's like starting down near the first frets and then all of a sudden like you have like 23rd fret riffage going on up here right afterwards. It's just unrealistic. So just that experience has lended itself to me writing stuff that is it's not human, but it's definitely doable if you have the right chops. And I've worked with bassists who do have the right chops. That going back to the older Sidian material that we were playing live, I wrote stuff that I thought was going to be fucking impossible, and then Danny as wonderful of a dude as that dude was, he was a fucking machine in tracking. He did stuff that was like, I was like, I would write stuff that was like, you know, starting down here, and then for the next part you'd have to jump up here, and I'm like, you're not going to be able to do it, and he would fucking hit it in one take, and I'm like, okay. And then along the lines, I've met other bassists that have played stuff that other people have written that I'm like, dude, that's not doable. And then I watched them do like a one take no cuts playthrough of something, and I'm like, yeah. So I'm not asking too much. I just need someone like Erlen Casperson to track for me or something.
Nice.
But but no,
We
but
have a
no,
saying
we
about bassists.
yeah,
We
yeah,
have a, hug your bassist today is what
yeah,
we say, because they're not like guitarists a dime a dozen, and there are some really good ones out there. And the fact that you see so many bands nowadays even touring around like without a bassist playing because I don't know, whatever the reason is, either they just don't have one or they not able to line one up for touring purposes. It's something that it's like, when you have the real basis there, it makes a difference and not just somebody filling the seat either. And so like finding a good one, right? It's pretty cool. And man, I like the sound that you got on the album. I mean, I thought it was awesome. Like the tools you use definitely,
Yeah, you did
brought it
a
out.
great
I
job
definitely,
with
you
it.
talked about the humanized aspect, totally sounded like a human was doing it. And it was not
gotcha.
sloppy, or like you said, it was super like, it was on point. It was the timing was sharp and it was tight, but at the same time, it didn't just sound like a machine. And whenever you were talking about the different velocities, like with the snare, we've recently gotten into some of that stuff on our own. Like Brando and I, we've been working on some recordings, and it's kind of like the 20 years, 25 years in the making, just something we haven't done in a long, long time. And so we've been having fun with it. But we were doing some MIDI drums just to play around with and learn how to do different plugins and stuff with those sounds. And I saw in there, I was like, oh, so we could actually make that snare hit not quite like 100% if we didn't want it to be like 100%. Because like you said, it's not always going to be like pop, 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 like right there on 100%, because these guys they're metal drummers. They're doing a lot. And so,
Yeah.
there's and I've said this to Brandon, like, there's an aspect of human that we're definitely going for, and he was like, yeah, but not so human that it doesn't sound like it's right anymore. We want it to sound good and sound tight, and so that always, right, timing, and it doesn't even matter what you're trying to do, timing matters with recording, no freaking matter what. And then after that, you got good tracks, you can kind of go wherever you want to go with it, post production. Now let me ask you this. So what are you actually using to do your recording? You're doing a lot of tracking at home, most of your tracking at home, right?
Yeah, everything's done right here. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, back on the, not to like get super fixated on the snares and the velocities and all that, but just to shed a little bit more light on that, uh it all comes down to that editing, but also not just editing the velocities and the humanization of it, but the velocity curves. So you have this linear curve where it's like, okay, 0 is 0 and 100 is 100. And then there's a straight line. But if you drag that and you make it slightly curved, then you have it so that when you have your hardest hits right here, your a little bit softer ones are like right here instead of all the way over here, which is, it basically makes it so, um, your rolls aren't gonna fall off like too steep. And
Or like too even, right?
yeah,
Them just falling off in a weird, even kind of straight slant way. Like sound doesn't naturally do that in a venue whenever you're sitting there listening to a band play live.
yeah, and that's a lot of studying of just other productions and watching other people play. I mean, just having the privilege of working alongside Alex Bent, and seeing like like sitting in on a lot of Fallujah's practice sessions and everything, and like they've had a lot of different fill-in live drummers and everything, and so like seeing Andrew Baird, play his style and everything, and then they'll get this guy from like Kentucky or something, and he takes Andrew's material, and they're like, dude, Andrew is amazing, but this guy hits his toms like fucking like at 100%, even when he's doing like the craziest, fastest rolls, and like I don't even know how you do that. And so there's this variation of like of just people's style of playing where they're capable of actually doing that stuff, and I'm like, okay, but what do I want it to sound like? What do I want it to sound like for me and for this? And yeah, and then going on to the bass thing, just well, bass and drums, it also falls on the producer. So with Albatross, and unfortunately this will never see the light of day. I love this producer with all my heart and everything because he's made some of my favorite albums. You may have heard of him. His name is Jamie King. He's done all of Between the Buried and Me stuff. Between the Buried and Me has some of my favorite production, especially growing up. Just as far as like natural sounding, like you're listening to the music and it sounds like you're right there in the room with it, especially if you're listening to it on vinyl. But it's one of those things where I had the bass, I had the drums and everything, and he was the only producer that I'd found that was offering a la carte services that weren't just out of this world pricing. So I sent him my stuff, and it was kind of like, okay, here's the stems, here's what I'm working with, and then he kind of plugs it into his own template, and there was a lot of back and forth trying to dial in that sound. And I got close to what I wanted, and I almost went with it for the rest of the record. And then URM Academy, Nail the Mix. That whole ecosystem of people, I don't know if that's the right word, but that whole group of people that that where you have these people that are submitting their mixes and everything. One of my favorite records from a couple years ago was the Zenith Passage, which also we have a little bit of connection to. Luis Martinez, he was our live drummer in 2012. He started with them, as well as I think another member, I think it was Rob Miramonte from Fallujah, was also in that project. Or both ex members of those projects and other projects now. But yeah.
So I've got a question for you about your recording process, and I'm kind of wondering, did you write these songs like while you were like, did you record them while you were writing them, and they kind of came together all in one, like while tracking, or did you have this whole like record written and then decide to track it and do and all that?
Oh yeah, I mean, like it's so it's definitely the former. A lot of it was sitting down and like, okay, how do I want this song to start? So the record started also kind of as a fluke. Everything's a fluke in my in my creative process, kind of. No, so I was doing the 2019 EP, and I accidentally had highlighted like a very, very short snippet from the penultimate track. There's like the closing synth track on that EP, but there's the actual track, The Shallow Grave of Inherent Hate. And I had accidentally highlighted a short little part of it, and it was just like this, and it just kept looping over and over with just like, it was just this riff going dun 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 dun, and then in the middle of those guitar silences, there's this bass going, and I was like, that's fucking sick. All right, I want to use that for the start of some new shit, and that's how Parasitic Icarus started. I was just like, okay, I want to start this dun 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 dun. So I'm like, so I'm starting off that riff. I start writing that riff, and then it's kind of like, I don't know, nothing's planned out. I mean, if we just think about the creative process and writing and everything, a lot of people are just coming up with cool riffs, you know, here, there, and then kind of putting them together if they fit, if they're in the same tempo, if they're in the same key signature, whatever. Um, One of my favorite quotes of all time was written on an autographed, I think, like tour poster or a T-shirt or something. But Antonio, our original vocalist, he went to a King Crimson concert, and Adrian Belew autographed something of his. Again, I don't remember exactly what it was, but he just wrote, "Remember, don't count, feel." And that has always resonated with me. So, um, as far as the recording process goes, uh, I take the riff that I have, and then I think about it. I like try to, you know, either not listen to it for a few days, or like hyper fixate on it and go, what do I want to come next? And sometimes like that happens right as I'm recording, you know, right as I'm sitting down. I think the first track was just like it was just pouring out of me. I probably recorded 90% of that first track, just sitting here in one day, and you know, doing slight modifications and edits as things moved along. But then other things are like, you know, I'm sitting here with my guitar tracking stuff. There's that whole process. And then there's the acapella process of it. And I encourage so many other people to do this because, and there's probably more people doing this than I think there is, but so much of music is me literally just sitting there either while I'm driving home from work or driving to work or something, and I'll just be like, and I'm like, okay, that was a fucking sick idea. Whip out my phone and I'll fucking record myself doing this acapella thing that has really no notes or like actual movement in mind. I'm just like, I need to get that feel nailed down. So like, let's take that and then figure out what actually sounds good being played on the guitar, doing that whole thing. And that's part of the whole hyperfixation of like something that I've written that's already recorded, that I haven't just like recorded the next part sitting down or whatever. It might come a day later, a week later, a month later. I'll get a writer's block and I'm like, fuck, what do I do on that next part? Like, you know, whatever. And then I have that riff recorded with the drums and the guitar and the bass and everything. So like the idea's there, but I can't really envision the next part until it just comes to me. So it's like, once it does, then I'm like, no, that's the one that I have to get that next part in there. It can't be any other way. And that's when I will actually sit down and flesh out the idea. So yeah, there's kind of like three separate processes there, I guess. There's the sitting there, recording, and then it just like flowing along organically. Then there's the sitting there, recording, and then like taking a few beats, kind of stepping back, getting like the big picture of what I want everything to sound like together, and then being like, okay, I got it, coming into it. And then there's that writer's block territory where I get stumped on something and I really have to let myself go, okay, if I rush this, if I push this too fast, I'm going to end up with something very contrived and it's not going to sound like it fits in the song. And I've done that plenty of times. I've done that so many fucking times where I've put something in there too quickly, and then it's a whole idea that's 1 or 2 minutes of the song, and I'm just like, highlight, delete, starting over. So
I've
yeah.
been there.
Yeah.
Like I write a cool riff that I like a lot, and I can't think for the life of me what to do next. And I'll play that same riff for like 4 or 5 months, nothing, and I'll be like, God damn it, this thing's gonna get wasted. And then one day something will just happen, and then like the rest of the song just comes together off of that. But it's like it took forever to get there, but you just got to hold on.
I
It'll
mean,
come.
for later. That's what I always do. So, like a lot of Manic Crash Flood, like in Albatross or whatever, that whole part, the whole introduction to Manic Crash Flood was supposed to be like halfway through Albatross, and I was like, no, this isn't the same song. So I just, instead of deleting it, like highlighted that whole part, dragged it, 5 minutes down the recording session to give myself room to actually put in there what I wanted. And then I'm like, this is still good. Like, this still sounds like Sidian. This still is usable, but it's not meant for this song. So let's save it for later. Let's create something else off of it.
Right. Yeah. All the
I mean, you were talking and then you muted yourself.
Dang it. I don't even know how I did that, but I managed to. But yeah, all
Genetic.
the ideas that, yeah, with my eyes, you did it with your eyes. Um, the ideas that come from the idea, right? Just getting there and trying to write something, and then before you know it, you've got multiple song ideas, but they're just pieces maybe because none of them have like a complete thought. And then you start realizing where you're trying to go with things, and like you said, back up, right? And ask yourself, what do I even want it to sound like too, because you still kind of have a direction that you're wanting to take it, even though the music's taking you on a journey too. So
Yeah,
do
I mean,
you use like a Focusrite interface,
yeah,
or
yeah, it's just a little 2i2. I
yeah,
don't need too much more than that.
that's pretty cool. What DAW are you using?
Fuck. So, it's been a combination of Logic and Pro Tools, and I am
Pro Tools.
going to be very soon investing in a Mac because the subscription fees for Pro Tools, it's supposed to be this flagship thing, and the money that I've had to put into the plugins for Pro Tools, and they're not intuitive. They don't mesh well. Like for instance, just for some slight vocal and pitch correction on Pro Tools, I had to pay $400 for Melodyne just to, get some vibrato that I didn't want, out of there, or something, or just like slightly pitch shift something. And over in Logic, which is a $250 one time, not, I don't even think 250, I think it's like $200, but like one time payment, you get all these, um, proprietary. Unfortunately, they're proprietary for Mac and everything, but they're these proprietary plugins that are just within the DAW itself, and you don't have to pay shit for them. They're just, and to be honest, it's like the flex pitch, the flex timing, all of that within Logic is so much higher quality than this $400 extra plugin that you're gonna pay for something that you're already paying thousands of dollars. Like, so I've been paying for Pro Tools now for like 6 years now, and at $30 a month, I mean, you do the math. Whereas you used to be able to pay the, I think it was like, I think it was still wildly expensive, like $1,200 or something like that. But you used to be able to pay for the perpetual license to own it, and now it's only subscriptions, and the tiers of the subscriptions. It's like I don't even pay for the highest tier subscription, and it's still like over the years, fucking, you do the math. Fucking at 30, I think it's
Yeah,
$35 a month now for 6 years.
I was noticing that even like Linux, whenever saying I don't use Linux, but just like speaking of another, something that's a little bit different than your standard Mac, I notice Linux has a lot of free stuff out there that you don't really have to pay for. And we use Studio One, and it's okay. It does probably what um, what was the one? Not Logic. You said Pro Tools. Pro Tools.
Pro Tools, yeah.
Probably, like similar to how, you're using third-party plugins that you're buying and bringing them in. You know what I do? I wait till Christmas time, I've learned, and everybody's giving away one, two, or three of them, if you just sign up for their mailing list. And so I
Yeah.
was like I think I snagged like 7 or 8 just this year. And one of them was like really cool, and it's not like it does anything different, except it's just like a little spectrometer that shows like a different spectrum of how the music is shown. And I was like, it's cool, I could see it
That's the one
it
that you
being
use to
used.
find ghosts, right?
Yes. Boop, 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 boop. See, like those guys back there. But yeah. But anyways, lots of neat tools. So do you use a like a DI box, or do you just plug straight into the interface?
I just plug straight in. I think I'm gonna invest in the what's like the super expensive one with the nice preamps. It's the oh fuck, I can't remember
You got
right
me,
now.
man. I use a Canvas one, and that's what Brandon uses. Um, with from Walrus, and that's just that's just because I work there, and so I'm like, hey, I'll get us a DI box. So
Yeah. Yeah, no,
um
I haven't used any DI boxes or anything because I'm not reamping anything on my end. Neural DSP for the win, they're what they've done over the last few years as far as their plugins. Primarily I'm running Plenty for the cleans because like the dreamy cleans on those things are fucking stellar. And then the Gojira suite.
That's what I'm using. That's what I
Yeah,
bought. Yeah.
so many great artist presets on there, which I personally haven't used. I always just tweak my own sound, figuring out like which head, which amp. I'm trying to emulate like the actual realistic, like what I would be doing if I was reamping. So they have like the ribbon 160s, and then they have just like the Shure SM57s or whatever. And I'm going, okay, every producer that I've known has always just used the two 57s, one straight on the speaker and then one like at a 45-degree angle to catch like the side of the cone and everything. And so
yep.
so that's exactly what I'm doing within the plugin. And I'm like, the fact that they put the thought into that of like, hey, if you just want to go that route, you can just do that. And so also it's like I've tried very, very hard. I wish I would have taken it down a little bit more, but I've became over the last couple of years a very, very promiscuous low gain slut. It's one of those things where when you're getting into those really technical riffs, as soon as you pump up that distortion to the high gain, which a lot of people tend to do, it loses so much detail, it loses so much of the attack, and I really wanted that to come through in the production. And like as much as I dialed it down, it still ended up a little bit more spicy than I wanted it to. But that overall, really, really happy with the sound. Oh, so I have ADD like a motherfucker. So I think where I was going with my previous thought on that was talking about Jamie King and his whole production, and URM Academy and all that stuff. So I found this guy because I was talking about the Zenith passage here. I'm following my breadcrumbs
Yeah,
back to my original thought.
yeah, okay, I remember.
So the Zenith passage put out Data Elysium back in 2024, and I was just like, dude, this is so fucking punchy. This is so fucking tight. This is the sound that I want after so many years of being like, like I remember originally with Sidian, I was like, I want our stuff to sound like Separate Savior, and then I was like, I want my stuff to sound like Surreption. Oh, I want my stuff to sound like what's another fucking really natural sounding drums? Uh Artificial Brain. Like their stuff so fucking so just organic, but like boom in your face. but yeah, I was like, okay, that's the sound that I want. And so I did that stuff with Jamie King, but it took so much back and forth with him to just get close to the sound that I wanted. And then once I signed up for URM Academy, the second place, because for whatever reason it never shows you the winner of the competition, or maybe it does and I can't find it because I don't know how to navigate their site or whatever. But there was this guy, Devin Taylor, that operates under uh, the business of Fountain Music, and his second place entry, when you A/B the original track that Dave Otero made and his track, there's no difference. And I was like, okay, so let me see if I can contact this guy. And I've reached out to dudes like, I mean, I've gone way out of my realm of like probably who I should be talking to, but you got to shoot your shot. Um, I've tried hitting up Jason Sukoff, who did all of Job for a Cowboy stuff, because again, like Ruination and uh, Sun Eater, and just, I mean, their drums, their guitar, their bass, all that organic balance was just something I was like, yeah. And then trying hitting up Kurt Blue, tried hitting up like George Lever, who did all of Loathe stuff, and was doing Sleep Token and all that stuff. Um,
Yeah.
but they are all beholden to their labels and everything, and they're charging something like $2,000 to $5,000 a track, and that's way out of my budget as like a single artist or whatever. So I found Devin Fontaine, and he's in Canada. I think he's in Calgary, and he was charging like 350 Canadian, which translated to like roughly 260 $270 US. And I was like, dude, that's less than I was paying for a single from any producer that I was working with earlier, Sidian stuff. And you're talking 15 years ago, and with inflation, I'm like, this is a fucking steal. So I did the same thing with Jamie, but I had a reference track, this time. Whereas with Jamie, I was like, yeah, of course I want my stuff to sound like Between the Buried and Me, man. Like, but the involvement that takes, I think, is Tommy and Paul and Dusty and Dan and all those guys, they're probably sitting with Jamie recording in the studio and being like, make this little change here, we want this and that, and you really get to dial that in. With Jamie working a la carte, you kind of just send stuff over, you plug it into a template, and you hope that it works out. And that's why I wanted to talk about that, was because in doing that, those bass tracks originally, which sound so good on this record, and the drums that sound so good on this record, like they still sounded programmed. Like they still didn't sound natural. The snare wasn't punchy. Like you didn't have the clarity, you didn't have the tightness. And then all of a sudden, this dude who is not, I mean, if you go to his Instagram, or like you look at his portfolio and everything, he has a very extensive portfolio, and you listen to his other tracks that are like post rock or just like regular surf rock or something like that. They're still very, very amazing. And I sent him the same thing. So I started with Albatross with Jamie, and I almost released that. I almost released it as a single in 2024, like late 2024. And then I sat on it because I didn't really have any sort of logistics as far as releasing it. And then I came across this dude, sent him the same thing, because I was like, okay, I paid Jamie almost twice as much as what I paid Fontaine to get this track. And then I paid Devin for this. So at this point, I'm like $700 in on just the single. And I'm like, I don't get where I want to be at this point. Then I'm just gonna call it and stick with Jamie, bite the bullet, you know, pay a little bit more, and come out with something that I like. I'm happy with, but still wasn't quite there. Devin comes back with this track, and I'm listening to it, and I'm like, this like. Then I'm A being that with the Zenith Passages record, and I'm like, holy shit, this sounds exactly the fucking same, except obviously with the changes that I wanted, with the modifications and like bass volume and everything. Back to the bass love, I'm like, crank that fucking bass up. Like I want that. I want that in the fucking mix.
You think
And
it's loud enough? Turn it up more.
yeah, no. And so that's what happened with Eternal Bloom of Lamenting Dawn. We were working with Zach Oren um at Castle Ultimate. You know, he did all of All Shall Perish's stuff and everything. He also did that's where I got what I wanted. He did Severed Saviors stuff, and so I was like, okay, like it All Shall Perish's stuff, obviously deathcore, so you get that really like punchy inorganic sound. But then Severed Savior stuff was like way more dialed back, way more raw and everything in their takes. And after we finished, he's sitting there mixing, and I'm just like, hey, can we get the bass up a little bit more? And he turns it up a little bit more, and I'm like, it's still not quite there. Can you turn up a little bit more? Turns up a little bit more. It's still not quite there. And I'm like, can you like really boost it? And he's like, he didn't get frustrated really, but he was being a little obnoxious, and he goes, oh, like this, and he just cranks it all the way up, and then he plays it back, and he's like, oh, this actually sounds really fucking good. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I want. This is what I want it to sound like. And now jumping forward to this record, it's like I didn't even need to say anything to Devin. He was just like, he was already on the same page. The first mix that he sent back to me was 95% of the way there. I think the only changes that I needed to make with him were like the ride cymbals, and then there were like a couple post like effects that were just like, they weren't quite dialed in, which we ended up ironing out and making it a much more streamlined process for the rest of the tracks, because I was like, hey, you know what you did with that track? Do it with this track. So we didn't even need to like, you know, chop it up or anything on that front when it came to doing the rest of the record. So doing Albatross took a couple back and forths, not anywhere near as much with Jamie, but then after that, it was pretty much like, all right, here's the stems for the next track, and then I think we would maybe have like one in back and forth for like adjustments or anything, and then it would be done. So it's just, you know, track after track after track after track. So it only took, you know, I was doing it every paycheck, just as far as budget would allow and everything, and it took, so, you know, I think 8 pay periods, so like 3 or 4 months to get this whole album produced, maybe even less. I think there was a couple times where I was able to pay for a couple tracks at once, but yeah, him, and I don't know what the fuck his process was, but where everything always fell apart with other producers was always with the snare, was always with the cymbals, and it was always with the bass, because it was programmed. And but I just sent him on Easy Bass. You know, they just have I have 3 different voices that I use on it, and there is basically the clean DI, which is, you know, unadulterated sound. Take off all the EQs and everything on the channel strip, and then I have the firm distortion, which is that really clanky bass sound. And then there is the Legend 810, which gives you like this huge balls of a sound behind it. I didn't even have to send him the firm distortion or the 810 or anything like that. I just sent him the DI, and he was able to tweak that. And I'm listening to the parts where the bass is just isolated, and I'm like, it sounds like a real fucking person playing the bass. He obviously is very adept at what he's doing when working with program stuff. And then with other producers, like, I don't know what it is, but it's like the snare, they would never be able to get it to that, like, you know, slam pop, like whatever you want to fucking call it, that really snappy sound that you hear in all these modern records. while also not going too over the top. You know, I don't want my shit to sound like Slaughtered to Prevail or like Knocked Loose or anything like that when it comes to those hits. Not that I don't fucking love Knocked Loose's most recent record. It's like one of my fucking favorite albums of the last couple of years, but that doesn't fit our sound or anything, or my sound, I should say. But and then the cymbals, whatever reason, there's something that other engineers do where the cymbals just end up sounding very compressed and kind of what's the word that I like to use? Just very like everything almost sounds like a splash. Almost like a crash doesn't sound like a crash. It just doesn't sound like the cymbals really have room to breathe, so that you can make a distinction between like the left crash, the right crash, the china, and the splash. It's all just kind of sounds like a mess of like, and I'm like, whatever. So those three things were like what I was listening for, and what he came back with was just like, no, I'm very, very happy with this, and I'm very, very happy with how this record ended up specifically because of him. He is such a good dude. I cannot give him enough credit or a shout out if this is the place to give shout outs for anyone like that. He is amazing at what he does.
Have at it. Shout out to anyone that can help take credit for the awesome work that's put out by you guys. So shout out.
Yeah, definitely. And I think on that note, that is a great opportunity to let a few folks out there hear it if they haven't had a chance to hear it, or if they have, remind them, to keep it at the top of their playlist. So
check out how badass Sidian is.
That's right.
Yeah.
But so we talked right before the show, and we talked about doing the title track, playing it here on this show tonight. So I'm really excited. I hope everybody out there is excited to hear it. The album that came out is named Where Our Silence Comes to Die, and the song you're about to listen to is named the exact same thing. So everybody out there, enjoy.
This is where and how do I begin to abandon the system of reward? That won't never come to will you.
Man, it's so freaking awesome. Thanks, dude. Thanks for letting us play it. I hope everybody out there enjoyed it. And, go check out the whole album. Um, we have talked about it and talked about it. And actually, Wyatt, this has been so far so freaking enjoyable because normally we don't get to dive so deep into kind of what, makes up the album and stuff. And so just you kind of taking us on that journey really gives us a chance to see just a different side of it. I mean, we're always getting a chance to look into the creative process, but some of the things that you talked about, it was really cool to get to see. It was like we were there, while you were telling the story. So that made it, with us listening to the album here, fresh on our minds, hearing how it was created, just kind of also helped bridge some of that gap in, the mindset behind the madness, if if that makes sense. And
Definitely a lot of
seeing
madness.
how it came to be. And we freaking love it. We freaking love it and excited to share it as well. So thanks again.
Thank you.
So Brando, are we wanting to ask him our fast five, or were you wanting to dive into anything else before we did?
Well, I had one other question.
I love it.
I would love to know what guitar you play on. What's your baby? What do you got?
Oh, okay. So, this is a Yamaha acoustic that my dad gave me back when I was in that degenerate phase. He was convinced probably a dozen times that I had sold it for some, drugs or weed or whatever. But my instrument is this puppy right here. This is my Kiesel Zeus that I had custom built.
I thought that was a Kiesel.
Yeah, this thing, it was my entire life. I've never had the guitar that I really wanted. There's a lot of brands out there, especially like bigger brands. There's Jackson, there's LTD, ESP, there's Gretsch and everything. But there was the whole idea of, okay, I want a 7-string. I want to start writing stuff lower. I want to have like the best of the best pickups and everything, and I also want my guitar to like look really fucking nice. So being able to like pick out the woods and everything, and then Kiesel doing what they do with just the woods. I had the budget one year after a tax return to really get my
Treat
dream
yourself.
guitar. This is the guitar that I will never sell for anything. It's like I might get rid of this bass at some point. I'm not that I want to or anything, but it's like, but this thing will be a heirloom piece that I pass down to my children, even if they never fucking play it. But
Hell yeah.
it's a multi-scale Zeus, so you got the angled or the fan frets and then the angled pickups and everything. It's a 3-piece body with black limba for the main, and then a figured Claro walnut top, which as far as wood selection goes, I didn't do anything special as far as I don't think they even had those options at the time of like where you got to have like the premium grade top or like first choice selection or whatever, but like them matching up like this side with this side and kind of just like meeting in the middle. Just, I don't know, beautiful figuring. And then the 3-piece body, you got this really nice black line separating the two.
Yeah.
Only thing that I wish I understood a little bit more were the finishes, because the back of the fretboard has this really nice exposed like raw wood. So I got the 5-piece. I think this is also just black limbo, but then you have the maple pinstripe down the back. It's a ebony fretboard, and I really wish I had gotten that same raw tone finish on here. I just chose like a matte or a satin, I think they call it, just like the satin finish or whatever. And I was under the impression that it was going to give me the same finish that's on the back of the neck. because I'm a really huge fan of natural wood. Over here I have desk a desktop that I had made. It's a spalted pecan, um, but I'm all for like the natural wood finishes and everything.
Oh yeah.
And but so when I first got it, because of that satin finish or whatever, I was like, is this real wood? Did they scam me? You know, or whatever. You know, but it definitely is. But the
You said that that darker wood was a walnut, right, on the front.
yeah,
So is
big,
that like I was looking at their site recently, actually, like a few weeks ago, looking like playing around with the custom builder thing. Um, I think it said something. How heavy is that with having the walnut on there?
oh, so at the time that I bought it, they had a deal where they were chambering the body for free.
Oh,
And
okay,
so that thing weighs nothing. I mean,
that's awesome.
I think probably
Because they had like a little disclaimer on there about the walnut saying like, "Hey, walnut's heavy. Like it's gonna be a heavy
no.
guitar."
So this thing I think weighs maybe a total of like 7 pounds.
Okay,
Um,
nice.
it's insanely light. And just I mean, it's immaculate to play. I've never had anything in my life, or at least prior to this, where like just never any trouble with the action, never any trouble with the strings or anything like that, um, or the intonation or anything like that. It's just been a flawless instrument, and I haven't had to do any work other than like replace the batteries for the pickups. Speaking of which, it's like I think two or three of these tracks I was halfway through recording, and like I finished the whole song, and then I went back and zoomed out on the DI and realized that the DI was compressed because my pickups were dying. Like
Oh
it was
man,
still picking up the sound or whatever, and then so I had to go back and retrack like 75% of a song because I didn't fucking change out the battery, and I'm like, God damn it, dude, that took up a
Yep.
lot of
Buy
time.
a 12 pack of 9 volts and just leave them next to this. Every time you try, every day, pick up a new battery.
Yeah,
Damn.
Gosh,
Well, that's
man,
cool, man.
freaking
That's a
battery
beautiful guitar.
nightmares. You know, some people they have like dreams that they can't find their class or dreams that they, don't have a tool. Yeah, for me, it was like that nightmare was being on stage and your bass not working and you don't have freaking 9-volt battery
but
anywhere. And oh man, we have some stories about my bass and its 9-volt, don't we, Brando?
We do.
I mean,
These
fucking 9 volt breaking a bass string while fucking on stage is the is the nightmare
the
for
Oh
me,
night,
man.
and I don't even play bass.
So,
oh man.
so
I think
why?
one time we had to like, oh, I was just gonna say we had to like Frankenstein my bass together because like some wires popped off of it because we had to change the battery so much, and then we got the battery changed, but then this one of the wires popped off, and we were like, well, that's not good. And so we had to like super glue it back on because it's all we had, and it was all like right before we were going on to play. So fun stuff.
Yeah.
So,
What were you gonna say, Brando?
well, I was going to ask Wyatt, is there, do you have plans or the ability to like, are you planning on doing anything live with with this record, like with these songs?
I mean, I would love to, but it goes back to the whole like, so right now I'm talking with my buddy Wes, who was playing, who was doing live bass for Sidian before we split up. And it goes back to the whole the capability to play the stuff,
Mhm.
one, but also there is a there's a it doesn't really translate to skill, because there's a lot of bassists that I know who are capable of playing really, really intricate stuff. That being said, there is a separation of two different types of musicians that I've come to notice, and as unpolitically correct as it is a very apt analysis of uh, of the difference in sound. And I think it goes back to gospel. Like I am not religious at all. Like I am a firm atheist. I have been my entire life since I was a child because I was raised by teachers, and my dad was a science teacher and all that stuff. But that being said, there is some credit to be given to the gospel musicians and that whole demographic of people, especially in the black churches. Their drummers, their bassists, their guitarists, they just have this kind of magic in their fingers that I think goes back to the days of the blues and everything like that. And in a lot of bass players that I have met, there is a there's that separation that I was talking about where you can play the material or you can feel the material.
I
And
was gonna say that comes back to that feel that you were talking about earlier, I think. But yeah,
yeah,
you
and it's
said
like
it.
when someone's playing the bass, even if it's technical stuff or really slow jammy stuff, I want someone's face to be like, I want to see that stank face because they're into it and they're really jamming. If the right combination of musicians came together, absolutely, I would be open to playing stuff live. I think, Sidian really fell short at the end there because if we would have just kept going, I mean, we would have done a US tour, we would have done a European tour, we would have gotten a lot more exposure. We would have made zero money doing it, but it would have been fun as fuck. But that's kind of where we left off. It was just we found musicians that were capable of playing the stuff, but one thing that I heard recently, maybe it was just a meme that I saw online or a fucking little reel or whatever, but it sucks when a band goes from realizing that to be successful in the world of music, you have to understand that you're no longer a group of friends having fun and it's a business.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the most successful bands out there realize that it's a business, but also can stay friends having fun.
That's why there's so few of them.
Yeah, I mean I mean the stress and obligations that come along with realizing that it's a business can easily collapse any like the strongest group of friends, because there's a lot of money and contracts and who's making the best decision, who's calling the shots, who's managing things. It's all those logistics to be considered. And on top of all that, you're juggling between like finding people who are just capable of playing the stuff live, or like, hey, like, do you want to be a part of this? Because extending that invitation to something that is so deeply personal to myself, I think,
It's got
if
to be
you,
the right people.
yeah, I mean, if you dove into the lyrics and everything, I wanted it to be a reflection of each other. I wanted the lyrics to be as personal as the music sounded and everything. And for that to happen, it's like the musicians coming into it need to understand that this isn't something that I'm just writing for people to headbang to or to enjoy. This is something that I want people to, even if it's just a handful of them, like I want them to listen to it and go like, man, this is fucking, this is some deep shit here.
Oh yeah.
I wanted this record to be a reflection of honesty, and then so moving forward when it comes to playing live and writing future material, if there is any, it's like it's all got to be met on that same vibe, I guess, of just like, hey, like you need to feel this stuff. Like it can't just be stuff that you think is cool and you're capable of playing, but like feel it. Like
Yeah. Okay, I have a follow one last follow-up question before we jump into these quick fives, Zoomy. Okay.
Cool.
That's Wyatt. If you find like, all right, if you are able to take this live with the songs, do you see yourself doing the guitar or the
Oh yeah.
vocals or both?
So how it always worked originally with Sidian, I wish I was like Jonas from Spawn of Possession and could do vocals over every stuff, or even like Muhammad from
Right.
Necrophages. But like there are definitely some parts which I am capable of doing vocals over. When we used to jam, I used to just sit there and just fucking play some super technical stuff. But Eric Lindmark, rest his soul. Fucking that guy is fucking a legend and one of my biggest influences of just a person. Deeds of Flesh, that whole fucking realm. It's like listening to that music, and then I had no idea because they never played live, right? They did a show here and there, and didn't learn until later. It's because Eric was dealing with MS and everything. But I had no fucking idea that the Deeds of Flesh stuff, that he was playing that crazy technical stuff and doing the vocals while doing it. And I'm like, that's why all the fucking like matches up perfectly with the fucking technical guitar he's playing, because it's synced like
Yeah.
perfectly with his with his fingers and what's coming out of here. I'm capable of doing a little bit of it, but for the most part, I would like a vocalist taking on the bulk of it, and then me doing some of the background stuff, or
Okay.
like just like the backup vocals and maybe like the singing and everything. It'd be great to find someone that is capable of doing the singing, but also it's the same thing with the rest of the stuff. It's like the singing isn't just it's
There's
like
emotion
there's
to it. Yeah.
yeah there's a feel to it, so you can't just sound like anyone. You gotta have right sound.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. I was just curious about that because I know you did both on the recording, so I was just wondering if if you could only do one, which one would it be? Sounds like
It
it's
took a lot
checking
of
around with that Kiesel.
Yeah, I mean, not to extend into the answer like too much, but it's like it took a lot of studying what some of my favorite vocals are. There's a lot of really like flamboyant stuff as far as like and I don't say that in a derogatory way. I mean in like show offy, like look how high I can go and look what cool run I can do and everything in the music. And I enjoy some of it. But I am way more into the like reserved range and like choosing a cadence or like a note pattern or like a just some sort of harmony or run that's like, man, that wasn't like a super high note or anything, but there was something that gave you goosebumps about that. One of my favorite bands that I've had on repeat for the last year. It's definitely going to be on like my Spotify fucking most played or whatever. But Loathes. I let it in and it took everything. Eric, Bickerstaff, and Kadeem. What they do with vocals is there's like not to get too cringy with it, but they put a lot of like their breathy sounds and like their Deftones-esque like moaning at the ends of their notes and everything, and doing kind of like a dissection of all that. It's like no one fucking does that shit. I'm the only one over here like fixating on like, oh, okay, like he did this little like at the end of fucking this note, and it's so silly to hyperanalyze it like that. But really, if you want to do it without a vocal coach, if you want to do it without years and years of like singing lessons and figuring out like what separates just someone who can sing notes and someone who can like put inflections and dynamics into what they're singing, you have to you do have to dissect that stuff, and I have the obsessive traits to do that. It's like it's to a fault, but it's also lended itself to figuring out just like the smallest details of where I can make my music sound just at that level of professionalism, and not just some single dude recording in this room here, and putting out a record that I feel like, not to toot my own horn, but can hang with the big dogs.
For
I
sure.
agree.
For
Yeah, I
sure.
concur. That's
And
awesome.
you
Appreciate it.
like, I almost, like, while you were doing that whole thing, like, I almost thought it was Liam Neeson telling me how he had like a specific set of skills, and
Love it.
it's freaking awesome. I loved it, man. No, it's great. The album, like I said earlier, next level. Really something else is the term I use to describe music sometimes, and that's just a phrase I use. It's like, you're gonna have to check it out on your own, but people should be doing that anyway, right? Don't just take my word for it.
Yeah.
Go out and listen to the music, and so check out Sidian. Check out the
Please
last
listen to
album
the
that
music.
they put out, Where Our Silence Comes to Die, and hope you enjoyed the title track that we played earlier. They got a lot more, like we talked about, Albatross being kind of a good pivotal point in that album for me. And I loved the whole thing. So thanks for bringing it out to the masses. Thanks for sharing it with us tonight. And I hope you're ready for these Fast Five questions.
I'll try my very best.
So, non-music related, Brando, you doing the evens?
Sure.
Okay. All right, Wyatt. Question 1. Would you rather only be able to whisper or only be able to shout?
I would rather only be able to shout.
Spoken like a true
Make sure
metal
everybody-
vocalist.
Yeah, make sure everybody can hear you, right? Now, if he was a bassist, he might be like, whisper.
No, I mean,
Depends.
that's because I've been told my entire life that especially by my dad, that I'm very, very loud. My voice carries across a room, which, I've used to my ability, when someone's there's that person that's trying to get a room's attention or something, I'm able to go, hey, like, and, now all of a sudden everybody snaps to it.
Everybody
and
listens.
So it's like, hey, use it if you got it. Otherwise, and then, being a dad too, it's like, I've been able to train myself to be a lot more soft-spoken and well thought out. There was a lot of being pointed out the fillers that people use in conversation, just speaking way too quickly because they need to be heard and they don't want to be interrupted. And so you get a lot of likes and you get a lot of ums and you get a lot of just stuttering and like, I need you to hear what I'm trying to say, and not a lot of listening and slowing down and thinking about every single word that is, that needs to be said is very important as far as substantial conversation. Substance is very, very important in conversation, and to be able to shout that instead of whisper it is, I think, would lend itself much better to communication.
Boom.
I think the listening comes with age. My mom, she says, there's a reason why you got 2 ears and 1 mouth, because you're supposed to listen more than you talk.
Hell yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Question 2. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Space Jam or Roger Rabbit?
Roger Rabbit.
Good answer.
Not a question about it. The whole fucking oh god, what is it called? The rubber hose like art style of like the ending with like the fucking trees and the street and
Oh, yeah.
the
Yeah,
cars and
the
everything
the
dancing.
sunshine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Also
everybody's all happy.
that like Space Jam, like for sure, was it was part of my childhood and everything, but uh I will definitely choose the one that traumatized me over the one that I enjoyed.
Right?
I'm gonna
Okay.
say Roger Rabbit was more traumatizing, man.
Dude,
For
if I-
real.
getting melted with acid and being like rolled over with a steamroller,
Yes.
like
Those are like my two main memories of that movie. Like, for real.
well, and then of course Jessica Rabbit,
Oh, yeah.
it's fucking the original Fap Queen, fucking
Uh-huh.
Forget
of
about her.
animation. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Started
And just
it
to be
all.
clear, we're talking about the original Space Jam, not that remake they did with LeBron James a couple years
Yeah,
ago.
No,
I
no,
didn't
fuck.
even watch.
Like I'm over here like that exists. Like
Yeah.
what? No,
yeah,
and
but not Space Jam 2. The
Yeah.
and
original
then
Space Jam versus Roger Rabbit. We're really talking two good movies.
That
no, I'm 100% the baby with a cigar. It's my alter ego for sure.
perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Zoomy,
Okay,
question 3.
question 3. If you were an animal, what would you be?
Oh fuck. I would be. Someone asked me this before, and I was like, I'd be a monkey, and they're like, why? And because of course, I wasn't prepared for the follow up question. I was just like throwing some shit out, and I was like, I don't know, because I'm like climbing on shit. And was received with a laugh, but honestly, just a fucking house cat, just a fucking house cat. Nothing special, nothing
Because you like
exotic.
climbing on shit?
Yeah, no, because like, dude, you got to give me some fucking good pets and some treats every now and then.
Here's up my round.
Shit up.
There you go. I
But
think I would
yeah,
be a
that's
cow.
good.
So I'm lazy. I just want to be lazy and eat all day.
Until you get eaten.
Yeah.
I'd be a bird, no doubt, man. I'd fly.
I'd love to fly, but at the same time, I don't know, just I feel like I would get tired mid-flight, and it would be kind of like you ever been out on like a dock in the middle of a lake and then being like, I can swim to shore, and then like halfway through the swimming you're like, oh, I gotta turn on my back because I'm about to fucking drown. Like, I'm not gonna make it. I feel like I'd be mid-flight, and then I'd just be like, oh shit, dude, my wings are giving out. I'm gonna fucking I'm
All
gonna die.
done.
I'm crashing to the earth.
Oh,
Now
man.
you just glide down, man. You just glide, and then you just sit on top of one of the like telephone poles right at a busy intersection in town and just watch everybody drive to work and be like,
Watch everybody fucking shit on everybody.
look at them.
Yeah, I would live on top of a car wash. People come out and shit right
Yeah.
on it. Yeah.
Just get them, man. Just get them as they come out. Man, the car wash, they'd feed you. They'd
Yeah.
want you, hey, bring them back around. You're gonna have to put you back through again.
Yeah, if I were a bird, I'd be a raven or a crow or whatever those smart birds are that you can
What are
train to bring you back
albatross?
trinkets.
Oh,
Right?
There you
yeah.
go. Yeah.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. I was thinking you were gonna say an albatross.
No, that honestly, like I had no thought of a bird in mind when I chose that word. It was a word that I came across like very early into my tenure as a medical professional. Is like I was sitting there, and this PA that I was working alongside, he used it in the context of a burden, and I was just like, I never heard that word before in my life, or if I had, it never like really stuck with me. And I was like, albatross, like, what is this? And discovering that it's, something that hangs very heavy around your neck. It's like, okay, like for sure. And then, trying to, like construct some imagery behind like what I was looking for. And then all I come up with on like any sort of research is this fucking birds. And I'm like,
No, the bird.
oh, that's what that is. All right. very contrasting meanings as far as that word goes. Like, is that a shitty bird or something? Like,
It's
is
a
that a
worrisome bird,
that
man.
like fucks with people and like ruins their lives or something? Or like, is it a bird that is a sign of a bad omen or something? Because
It's
like
a big. It's got like the giant wingspan. It's like
okay,
y'all like
okay,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, that was good. You look just
Wait,
like one.
hold on, hang on a second. Let me show the viewers.
Prepare yourself, viewers. Don't flash us.
So I think I can do this with. Hang on. Let me share it this way, just so I don't accidentally disconnect us, because I could do that.
Oh man, the power that you hold within your hands.
Right?
Yeah. So maybe they're not that big. They're like seagulls. I'm sorry. But they do no, check it out. The wingspan, 8.2 to 11.5 feet. So I mean, you think our arms are like 3 feet, 4 feet long or whatever. So theirs are like double our
we
wingspan.
need a banana for scale.
It's like 14 bananas, okay?
Dude,
Laid out like this.
An 8-foot wingspan, that's a sheet of drywall, man.
I know.
Dude, yeah.
That's kind of big.
fucking-
That is big.
It's big. It is big. So
Shit.
I retract my retraction.
And they live to be 50 years old. Damn.
Hope I make it that long.
And if you
Fucking
want to know what's so
crazy.
special about it, oh yeah, largest wingspan of any bird. See, like everybody, Zoomy is not crazy.
So
Oh, and
Well, he's
look,
a little crazy.
this one, hey, this one's for you, Wyatt. They can coast several miles in just a single flap.
a single flat. Well, then, God, I mean, you might be selling me on the bird here. Just like
Yeah,
one flap and I'm going. Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect.
50% of their lives at sea. So that fear of drowning, still there, buddy, still there.
It's like both combined into one. And well, like I'm curious about their relation to the whole concept of a burden. Is it because they are burdened with the weight of their own wings, or is it because they, I don't know, like
Does it have something to do with their nesting habits?
I know birds are bad luck to like sailors and stuff. That's why they never will kill a bird. Refers to the metaphorical albatross around one's neck, symbolizing heavy, inescapable psychological weight, guilt, or hindrance, originating from a poem, is where that originally came from. In the
there it
poem,
is.
a sailor shoots a benevolent albatross, bringing a curse.
There it is. There it is. And is forced to wear the dead bird as a penance, making it a powerful symbol of self-inflicted suffering or persistent problem.
I think you just rewrote the
Can't
song.
remember. It was like Odysseus, or whichever one that stole the lightning from Zeus, and as the punishment, the big bird came and like ate his liver every day. He was tied up on a mountain or something, and the bird would like come and eat him. But he
Yeah.
had regenerative processes, so he would regenerate and then get eaten again that next day, and then regenerate overnight and get eaten again the next day. And so I think that was him, and I think it was the bird, the albatross. But anyway, we could go on and on about albatrosses, I guess. I didn't even realize it.
New
You can eat me.
podcast about
Yeah, we could do an albatross.
podcast.
Yeah, an albatross cast.
All right. Okay. Question 4. Are you guys ready? Are you ready,
I'm
Wyatt?
ready.
Let me stretch.
All right. Let me know when you're ready. Okay. What is your karaoke song?
I actually recently did karaoke for my first time 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was "Is It Really You" by Loathe.
All right.
That's the only one I've
Loathe?
ever
Oh,
done.
yeah.
So it has
Well,
to be it.
there you go.
It was some like, fucking karaoke, like what do they have in the realm of the music that I listen to that's actually available? And like they just happened to have that one, and it was, of course, it's like the light piano fucking Sleep Token remake of it and or whatever, but yeah, it's still the same structure, whatever. So it went over well. But by the way, I mean, just to throw some fucking shade, I am not a fan of Sleep Token at all. just to put that out there. Well,
Disclaimer.
if you're gonna listen to that song in reference to my karaoke song, listen to the load version, the original version.
Like it.
Because yeah.
Well, you're not alone. I'm not a fan either. I've never even really given them a chance, though. To be fair,
I have just because I have had friends and been in a relationship where, you know, someone was a huge fan of them and was subjected to listening to them, and I'm like, dude, this guy sounds like Breaking Benjamin, but even with more balls in his mouth. Like, I don't get the hype behind this dude singing, but you know, whatever. I think it's more of like a teenage girl demographic appeal than it is like a fucking, you know, 30 to 40-year-old metalhead. But
And the boys would be smart to go to those shows. You know what I'm saying?
they got album of the year, didn't they? Didn't they get fucking album of the year? Like
yeah, they got recognized. Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, whatever, cool.
Yeah,
It's tough with new music, you know. Luckily, metal, even some new metal, I have to, you know, really be open-minded to, because I don't want to, you know, shut things down, because some of the greatest innovations have come from people doing something different. You know, that's all the greatest innovations, I guess. But all right, last question. What is the best, funniest, or coolest Wi-Fi name you've ever seen?
Oh man. So obviously everyone's seen the FBI surveillance van. One, which always cracks me up, but I'd have to give it to my one of my favorite people in the world. She's one of my best friends. This girl, Michaela. We've been dating the last few years, but not so much as of late. But her Wi-Fi name was Philip J. Wi-Fi.
I like that. Yes, Futurama. Yes,
Yeah.
Wi-Fi. I love it. That's badass. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's funny, man.
You always-
like when I saw that Jimmy had that question on there, I was like, if you asked me that, I'll be like, I don't even know what my Wi-Fi name is. Like, I could not tell you. I don't know, Xfinity Community Wi-Fi. Like,
Oh man, it is actually a tough one. Sorry,
Yeah.
I couldn't get those
so
words out.
good
for a
job.
second.
You had one. You
I've
had an
seen-
answer. I'm impressed.
I've seen Death Star, and I thought that one was pretty cool. Is I was like, oh, the Death Star. So, you know,
Let's go. Let's go.
I'll tell you what's available right now that I can see as well. Maybe I would. Here we go.
That's what I'm looking at. Let's see. We have Olympics, Verizon, Cool Casa.
Nothing good. Nothing good on my end.
Nothing either.
Lunchbox. Yeah, nothing good on mine right now.
I got one that says hidden network, and I'm kind of like
Ooh.
curious. I'm like, not so hidden. I can see it, you know? It's right there. It just doesn't have a name to it. But anyway, everybody, that's the 5 questions. I hope you liked them. And, oh, here you go, Brandon. This is for you.
No. I love it.
But, oh, well, that was fun.
What?
It's Wyatt, man. Thanks for playing the Fast Five. Thanks for letting everybody out there get a chance to know you just a little bit more outside of the music. We always say, maybe someday somebody will see you out there and they'll be like, "Hey, that's Wyatt from Sidian," and they'll be like, "I remember, you know, what he said, and I'm like him, and so I'm gonna, you know, go up there and say what's up to him or something, or tell him that I like his music, and really just to let people who are watching the show get a chance to meet you outside of the music. But man, thanks for diving us into your world and letting us see how you do it, and just kind of getting into your brain a little bit, because it was extremely educational and informative, and I was digging every single minute, and what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I was soaking it up, everything you were saying, So I really appreciate you sharing.
I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Wyatt. It's really great having you on here and hearing about Sidian and your processes and everything. So, and just keep doing you and putting out your feels. And I'm gonna keep listening to it. So, you know, keep putting
Well,
it out
thank
there
you.
for us.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, it's just again, just a very honest. I tried to be as honest as possible with this record, especially with the lyrics, and I wanted to get to a point where we are addressing things in music again that are the uncomfortable sides of things, and like taking an honest look in the mirror without any sort of dysmorphia. um it's so easy to tip into the, hey, what's going to sell good, hey, what do people want to hear. And I think if people don't just listen to it but also do a lyrical read along with what they're listening to, I mean, I not trying to make anyone obligated to do that, but I know that my experiences are best whenever I'm listening to something and I'm like, hey, what is this song about? Not just what does it sound like. My favorite things are to read the lyrics along with what I'm listening to, and figure it out, because there's a lot of, I mean, this is basically not all of just myself, but all of um a lot of the people around me that have affected me very deeply. A lot of just very, very shameful experiences that um, I wouldn't necessarily not talk about, but wouldn't come up in conversation, as far as not making someone highly uncomfortable or something. But just you know when you're listening to this record, just take it as it is and understand that it's something that I would like people to let themselves absorb it in a way that makes it more comfortable with, or makes them more comfortable with those really honest parts of themselves that they don't necessarily acknowledge, or that they repress, or don't really want to take a look in the face. It's hard sometimes, but it's that's being an anxious person, coming full circle to the beginning of the whole thing. Just you'll face your anxieties with such more, or with so much more resilience, if you can be honest with yourself about what you're going through, what you've been through, and what you may go through in the future. And it's life, and I try to put all that life into this.
Yeah, man, life's friggin' ugly, and it gets messy. And usually in the end, whenever we're looking back, it's the experiences that are most genuine that we hang on to the most. And that's some of that rawness that you're talking about, some of that honesty that you speak of, is just being genuine and true to yourself, to others. And kind of wearing your scars on the outside too, in a way, not to be I think you use the word shameful, but not to be like shamed, but really just more so because others recognize those things, and then we help each other out, right? We're there and we're like, hey, I've been through that, I can help you, I've done that. Because I've said before on the show, we all want to live on top of the mountain, but we learn in the struggle, and we learn in the climb when we're climbing the mountain. So the mountaintop's great, we like it, but can't stay there forever. So, and we don't learn anything up there. So, you
Heard
know,
it's
I
cold.
think that, yeah, it's cold. I think whenever you can be genuine and honest with yourself, you know, that's when your art really speaks and others can hopefully see what you wanted it to be, you know? Um, and I think they're gonna have trouble putting this one down. So you know, guys, go listen to Sidian. Wyatt, if there's ever anything we can do to help you, help Sidian, or any of your other projects, please let us know. We would love to, whether it's just a simple share or you know, taking it even further in that. We've collabed with other bands before and we just like working with bands. That's our most favorite thing. And that's why we do it every single show. So everybody out there, I hope you enjoyed. Thanks again for tuning in. And you know, that's all I got, guys. So you know, I could say thank you a million times. It's been fun, and I'm so stoked we finally got a chance to do this and hang out. I've been waiting for it for weeks. It's actually been about a month since we set it up. So actually I think didn't Robbie help us set this one up?
Yep,
Brandon?
Viscera Disgust Media. The man,
Good old
Robbie.
Robbie. Yeah, man. Robbie, he's always looking out and throwing some awesome bands our way, and we've got a chance to hear so many great bands. And Sidian just being another one on the list to, you know, keep at the front of the playlist. So we're having fun, everybody. We love you. Thanks again for tuning in, Wyatt. Thanks for hanging out with us. Metal Block over and out.
Let's
Thank you.
go.